Emeritus YCW, as well as a trade union and peace movement activist. These days he writes about the history of the Irish in Australia and is fellow of the School of Historical Studies at the University of Melbourne. Would you please welcome Noone?
At the back, Marlene, can you read that summary? Right down at the bottom. Well, if you can all read it, just make a few notes and I can go home. I'm basically going to take you through each of those 5 phases. In the longer paper, I've documented the sources. There are 2 I want to mention straight away. One is a memoir collected by Rod Lehman from Toronto, and the other one is the DVD that Matthew Goddard made of the memorial service at Clifton Hill. Brian Desmond Burke was born on the 4th of October 1926 at Myron Street, Ascot Vale, the second of 3 children of Bernard Burke and Maud Bagelhold. Had an older brother, Kevin, engineer, who died in 2008, and sister Lois, who's still alive and well. He was known by some as Brian, but hundreds of people in Australia and Canada and around the world call him Burke. He had a proud Australian Catholic working class upbringing. His father Bernie, together with his brother Martin, ran a vegetable stall at the Victoria Market and later at the South Melbourne Market. His mother Maud was a singer and a quite striking personality. He began his primary school at St Mary's Ascot Vale, and at the age of 9 the family moved to Beach Road, Blackrock, where he attended St Joseph's Parish School. For secondary he went to Christian Brothers, St Kilda. He was always keenly aware that as a person who completed Year 12, he was in a tiny minority. Less than 1 in 20 of his cohort had the same advantage. While at CBC, he joined the the YCW. From 43 to 51, he was a student at Corpus Christi College for the Catholic priesthood and was ordained a priest in 51. The Jesuit priest, Father Charlie Main, was a really important influence on Brian in the seminary. After 5 years, Brian left Werribee and went to work at the Crown Solicitor's Office, and he had to convince Main to let him back in. But he said to Main, "I wish to work better for the Christian aspect of the YCW." One of the prayers that Brian read and remembered from those days comes from the Abbé Gaudin, author of a book called France Pagan. The prayer, "Lord, from being a bourgeois priest, deliver me." From 52 to 46, Brian was assistant priest at Hampton, St Mary's, and later was appointed diocesan chaplain to the girls section of the YCW, known then as the National Catholic Girls Movement. And in 59, he became national chaplain to the girls YCW. A remarkable tribute to Brian came from Betty Bryant at the Memorial Mass at St John's, Clifton Hill, and she and 3 friends came and announced themselves, "We are members of the first YCW group to which Brian was chaplain at St Mary's, Hampton." These were the years of extraordinary growth of the YCW in leaders groups, extension work, and also in sporting organisations, dances, pre-Cana conferences, and so on. Shirley Carroll, Margaret Armstrong, and Margaret Moore, who became Margaret Armstrong, Betty King, who worked with Brian as full-timers, are on record as stressing that he had an ability to help people to believe in themselves. And they're also strongly on record on his prayerful approach to life and work. They said he showed faith in young people. Around 1960, following the example of one of Cardine's early groups, Brian encouraged an experiment. Joan Healy, some of you will know from her Cambodia work, Margaret Lindsay and others from the YCW went to work in factories in Fitzroy and Collingwood. We felt that the YCW was too exclusively oriented to teachers and office workers, they said. Brian judged the experiment had heightened awareness of existing members about the lives of workers who they did not easily get to know, but he regarded the move as a failure. Becky King went into print and argued against that, and the evidence was, she said, that the groups all around the diocese all began looking at their own parishes to see how they could involve all girls and how new groups might be formed. Well, 9 years later, in 1968, he was appointed chaplain to the International YCW, the second successor to Cardine after Ullenbrook, based in Brussels, Belgium. Just a couple of pics. Second from the left in the front row, Burke, Brisbane Conference. Brisbane, the top left-hand picture, the right-hand side is Luana, and the bottom right-hand side is that group of around Betty King and the others at a reunion recently. I'll just stick with the International for a minute. The exceptional experiences he had in visiting YCW leaders in Brazil and Vietnam had a very important effect on his understanding of everything. The leaders there had been harassed by the military and in a number of cases jailed. He was in Brazil in 68, 69 and Vietnam 70 and 71. Some of you will remember this, the campaign about the Vietnamese political prisoners. Brian and the International YCW approached the bishops and the Pope to intervene in support of the young workers, but they ran into a brick wall. And this had I think, had quite an effect on Brian and the International YCW in radicalising that group. I want to now move to a period in 74 and 75. In summary, these are a couple of years on the road around North America, largely the States, but a little bit of Ontario and Quebec. On behalf of the International YCW, Brian was studying the labour movement and promoting the YCW. He assembled a report for International YCW on the status of workers in the States and about their resistance to the working conditions in that country. Around the States, he also visited Phil Berrigan and Liz McAllister in Baltimore. He was mugged in Chicago. He met up with and was never bitter about the people of that place. He met up with the activists of Cesar Chavez's United Farm Workers Union. And he took casual work in uptown Chicago. He wrote, "I was staying among the poorest people in the richest country on earth. Each morning the workers report at 5:30 a.m, sit in the converted storefront and wait. After 1 or even 3 hours, they're given a timesheet if they are lucky enough to be called that day. In my case, we left each morning at 8:15 in a van owned by staff builders to go to a warehouse in a new industrial park. There was no way of getting there by public transport, and if the bus came home on time and you were working overtime, you had to make your own way back. Workers got less than half the pay, and they were completely unorganised." And he has a lovely account, an upsetting account of more of the details. Brian's views of the world were becoming more radical at the very same time as he was considering withdrawing his labour as a priest from the Catholic hierarchy. The ideals that had taken him in to the YCW and to priesthood looked like they were about to take him out. And a number, as some in this room are part of this, a number of other priests in YCW circles were making similar moves at that time. Brian applied to be laicized from his classmate Frank Little, and in January 1976 he and Mark Bacon, who was indeed the former treasurer of the International YCW, were married in Toronto by Bishop Raymie de Roux. I don't know if there's any connection to the de Roux and the Cardine story. De Roux, some of you will know Bishop Raymie de Roux from Vancouver, a liberation theologian and a critic of capitalism of some note. Brian and Mark have one daughter, Yvette, who's married to Robert, and they have two children, Carlia and Keenan. Keenan was Brian found out soon before he died that Yvette was pregnant with a second child. I've just shown you a few pictures of some of the young people who I was lucky to meet in '76 when we were visiting Burke. There's some of the top left-hand corner. One of those is a little brother of Jesus from the Charles de Foucault group, working in the shipyards in Baltimore, but just happened to be on a new estate there. The girl in the green top, in the top right-hand photo, is Lucy Saint-Germain from Quebec, full-time for YCW, but at that stage working in a factory, and the others were working in factories as well. I'll talk more about that in a minute. So after the marriage in '76, in 1977, at the age of 51, Brian gained a diploma as a qualified metal worker, as a fitter and turner, and he had a number of years in the metal industry. During this time, Brian and Marg were active in the Young Christian Workers groups and in other peace and justice groups. They'd initially planned to come back to Australia with the Hebbs and Armstrongs, but in conjunction with the militants of Toronto, they took a firm decision to stay there. Mark Bacon had long been a leader of the YCW groups moving into factories. Brian and the groups he was part of had come to a number of conclusions about industrial society and its future. In particular, they rejected the myth that North America was a middle-class society, and they affirmed the plain sociological reality that America had, and indeed has, a working-class majority. With Cardine, they believed in the historic destiny of the working class to defend their rights and build a more just society. The move of YCW and ex-YCW militants to take factory work chimed in with the decisions of the Declaration of Principles from the 1975 World Council of YCW at Linz, Austria, for which Brian helped to draft some of the policies and which Brian attended. So he had worked, before he became finished, he worked in other factory jobs as an unskilled worker, and he found many of these places to be unorganised. Mark commented, "Why did Brian do this?" She was asked in an interview. "He did this because he simply wanted to live what workers were living. In two of these jobs he felt forced to quit because the company wanted to make him a supervisor, which was not why he was there." Well, when he had that job as a fitter and turner, he was working in a food plant, Burns food plant. He was there for a few years. And this has parallels with the worker priests, obviously, of France and Germany, who argued that their option was made because the YCW was not reaching the de-churched and marginalised workers. Well, but just you should see, Marg is this person second from the left, Burke is the one with the baby Yvette, that's Alan Smitty on the right, and Mary Doyle in the middle, and so on. Okay, after a few years of factory work took a toll, Brian's back and shoulders played up, he was forced to leave. The next job he took until retirement at the age of 70 was the Cooperative, here's one for race, Housing Federation of Toronto. The executive director, Tom Clement, said, "We have lost a great friend when he died, mentor and true leader. His main contribution was as an educator, giving workshops on housing cooperatives and as a writer of educational materials. His forte was in translating the co-op legislation into plain language to make booklets for the members. He also worked in mediation and conflict resolution." And he's retired because a person like Burke, active in seniors groups and so on. Brian Burke, I'm going to label him a keeper of the flame. Friendly, kind, unassuming, good-looking, intelligent, well-read, lover of music. Both his mother and his daughter could sing opera. He was at ease with a wide range of people, usually drawing them out to talk about themselves. He was serious about workers' rights. He had a laconic Aussie sense of humour. He loved sport but suffered from a bad back for 60 years, which didn't stop him playing pool and tennis or going camping or swimming. He devoted a good deal of his life to the search for how to live as a follower of Jesus in the modern era. Like Teresa of Avila, he sought to see things the way they are. He had a calm, contemplative approach to his Catholic faith, critical in private of bishops and popes, and indeed at times an opponent of them, but he nonetheless maintained public respect for the Church. He was influenced, as I don't need to tell this audience, by the gospel discussion method. Nearly every decision he made that I know of was taken as part of a group. Brian and Mark held weekly or fortnightly gatherings for Christian reflection until Brian became too ill to do so, attended by other militants, priests and religious of Toronto. In his final years, he suffered from Parkinson's disease and died peacefully in November 2009. Brian was a keeper of the flame, and in terms of today's agenda, Max, he deserves to be remembered. Thank you.
Okay, so questions to Val or comments? You would stand and then introduce yourself. Thank you.
Who here knew Burke? Anyone? Yeah, okay.
Question? Identify yourself, please.
Mick O'Brien.